Hello and welcome back to the Jobless Bum YouTube channel. I hope you're having a fantastic day. Today, we are going to be reacting to r/Am I the Asshole and providing a moral philosophy insight into the greatest quandaries of Reddit. In other words, we're going to be judging Reddit for its actions. I hope you're excited for this. I am very excited. And without any further ado, let's get right into it. Here we go. First scenario. Am I the asshole for refusing to give my friend a ride home after she told our friend group that I fuck zoned her? I'm 26 male, part of a pretty big friend group. We live in a big city, so we like to go to concerts, sporting events, or nights out every weekend. Me and my high school boys/girls, I guess, are the core of the group, with others bringing in work colleagues or significant others. Our high school friend Jamie ended up introducing us 5 years ago to Caitlin, 26 female, who was her friend at work. The past 5 years, Caitlin has been a part of our group, also playing on our kickball team. Before people ask, no, I never considered her a friend. We were part of the same friend group. I'm good friends with Jamie, but me and Caitlin weren't close at all. Like, yeah, we'd talk at bars or during kickball, but nothing beyond surface level. I always thought Caitlin was good looking and seemed fun, so one night I texted her and asked her out. She basically said she didn't want to mess with the friendship we had or the group dynamics, so it wasn't a good idea. I told her I understood and thought that would be the end of it. The next time we hung out, she was super weird, like was all up next to me all night, constantly trying to start conversation. It made me feel awkward, so I sort of stopped hanging out with the group for a few weeks to get some space. During this time, she texted me and snapped me a bunch asking where I was. I didn't show up to kickball for 2 weeks because I just didn't want to see her and felt embarrassed. A few of my guys decided to just hang with me at my place for a few weekends, instead of going out with the larger group. During this time, Caitlin told everyone in the group that I asked her out, and the reason I wasn't coming around was because I fuck zoned her. My girlfriends reached out asking if this was true. I said that I did ask her out, but me and her were literally never close to begin with. This caused a whole bunch of drama with some of my girlfriends giving me tons of shit for it. I told them I just wanted some space, and that my guys, not me, were the ones who decided to come hang with me instead of the larger friend group for a few weeks. But since we are the fun ones in the group, I guess our lack of attendance was felt. I got over it a few weeks later and last weekend decided to go out to a baseball game. We all met up, including Jamie plus Caitlin, and drank and then watched the game. Then we went bar hopping after while I stayed sober and was the DD. At the end of the night, I was taking my guys home when Caitlin and Jamie hopped in the car and said they would like a ride home. I told them to get out of my car, and I wasn't giving them a ride home. They started arguing and asking why, and I said because Caitlin tried to make me look bad in front of the group for no reason, so they could call an Uber. They ended up getting out, but not before calling me an asshole. My guys' friends are on my side. The girls in the group think what I did was petty, but I wasn't about to go 20 minutes out of my way home to drop off 2 girls who had been shit-talking me for weeks. The friend group is split. Am I the asshole? Interesting. Okay, so taking another look at this, what I think is that OP is definitely not the asshole here. I think because he had a very mature response to the situation, right? In my opinion, I think. In that he made his feelings known, and then the other person in the situation rebuffed him. And I think he had a very rational response and was like, hey, you know what? That's okay. We can continue being friends. And he said, you know, that he was okay with that. And then that would be the end of it, like he said in the post. And then, for whatever reason, I don't know why this Caitlin person decided to take this as a indication to try and get closer and make this other guy feel awkward. Because, like, imagine, like, you get rejected, you get rebuffed by someone, and they're like, oh, let's just be friends. And then, right after, they change up their behavior, indicating something that was the exact opposite of what they said. Like, that's just insane. That's crazy. So I get why, like, you would distance after that. Like, that's just a weird situation. And, you know, it's not like he, like, said anything like, oh, this is, like, so fucked up. It's not like he, like, blew up on her. He just disengaged from the situation. And then Caitlin took this the other way, I guess, in that I guess this is how she thinks that close friends of the opposite sex are supposed to interact. If you're just friends, is to getting all up next to him and trying to start conversation. Maybe that's like some sort of indication that you just want to be friends, I guess. But I don't think the proper response to rejection, I think if you get rejected, you probably want some space away from that other person, not for them to suddenly insert themselves into your life. So I completely get where this guy is coming from in terms of like distancing himself from this Caitlyn girl. Now, was the kicking her out of the car, was that a bit of a dick move? Was that a bit of an asshole move? I think probably, like a little bit. But at the same time, you know, he was emotionally hurt by this girl's actions, and you know, he didn't want to put up with this anymore. So I think he's justified in his feelings, but perhaps the manner in which he went about kicking them out of his car, that might have been a little bit of an asshole move, but I think it was probably justified. So, but I also understand where the girls are coming from too, because it's like, okay, like Caitlyn rejected him, but also she didn't make him feel like he was like ostracized either because of that. She just wanted to like, you know, maintain as normal, maybe even like make him feel included because she didn't want him to be, you know, totally kicked out of the group. So I think perhaps that may have been from a place of good, her actions, but the way that I think OP interpreted that is pretty justified as well. So perhaps there's no assholes here, but I'm leaning towards saying not the asshole, because also Caitlyn started talking shit about him and was like, oh, you fuck zoned her, you know, whatever. So in that sense, if Caitlyn hadn't talked shit about it, I think that she wouldn't have been the asshole. But because she did talk shit, I think Caitlyn's the asshole and OP's not the asshole for kicking someone out who had talked some smack about him. Let's take a look at the top comment. The top comment says, not the asshole, you asked, she rejected, and you respected her rejection. Nothing in the world wrong with that. The rest is nothing more than immature bullshit that they are trying to start. Sounds like you need some actual adult friends. Maybe stop hanging out with people who act like children still in high school. I think I mostly agree with that. Like I said, I think that the way that OP and Caitlyn reacted to the situation was probably justified initially, at least. She didn't want to probably exclude him, I guess. So maybe that's why she came in closer. I don't think that's how, like, someone who was rejected wants to, like, be approached. But at the same time, you can't just, like, talk shit about someone and expect them to have a good opinion of you. I think that OP was definitely not the asshole here. Next scenario. Am I the asshole for telling my wife it's not my responsibility to make her mom feel comfortable when visiting? Ah, the eternal struggle. The mother-in-law. My wife and mother-in-law have been trying for the past few months to find a time for mother-in-law to come visit us. Mother-in-law is currently separated from her husband, my wife's stepdad, and is kind of bouncing from family member to family member, helping them out. She's been house sitting, dog sitting, cleaning, painting, organizing, etc., and all the different places she goes. I honestly do not want that kind of help at our place. I don't think we need it. But my wife wants mother-in-law to visit so she can at least spend time with our 3-year-old son. 2 weeks ago, mother-in-law texted my wife on a Thursday to let her know she would be coming the next day. Not the most respectful or convenient thing to give 1-day notice in my opinion, but not the end of the world. She also told my wife that she plans on spending 2 to 3 weeks with us. Again, that seems like a long visit and a bit presumptuous on mother-in-law's part. I told my wife I would appreciate a bit more advance notice, and she kind of said this was what works for mother-in-law. I asked about the long stay, and my wife said that she has a lot of work stuff going on the next couple weeks in the evenings and weekends so that mother-in-law could help me out at home. I told her I don't need the help, and I don't necessarily appreciate the implication that I do. She told me it would be good for mother-in-law and our son to spend some extended time together. Last week, my wife did have to work in the evenings and on Saturday. I tried to keep to our son's routine as best as possible, but mother-in-law kept indulging him whenever he wanted to stay up later or play outside later than we usually do. Not a huge deal in the grand scheme of things, just kind of frustrating. But my son loves playing with mother-in-law, so I didn't say or do anything about it. What I did do was pretty much ignore mother-in-law after my son went to sleep or when my wife was home. I just hung out in the basement and relaxed. I wasn't rude to her, I just didn't really initiate conversation or go out of my way to spend time with her. I guess she told my wife that I've been making her feel unwelcome and uncomfortable. My wife confronted me about this over the weekend and told me I need to be nicer to her mom and make her feel more welcome when she visits. I told her that is not my responsibility to make mother-in-law feel comfortable in our home. I told her I will be civil and polite and help mother-in-law if she asks, but I am not going out of my way to be proactive for her. My wife said that mother-in-law is going through a hard time and it's been hard on her going from place to place without having anywhere to call her own. I told her that's of her own choice as she was the one who moved out on her husband and that she has a place to call her own. She just doesn't want to go back. My wife told me to stop being a selfish jerk and to at least act like I am okay with her mom being there for a few weeks. She said it won't hurt me to not act like an asshole while she's here. I have a couple of thoughts in terms of this scenario. So, number one, it seems like the mother-in-law is going through a very difficult time in her life, in that she is separated from her husband. So I think in times of distress, people should probably be given more leniency. And she's been having to move around while she gets herself back on her feet. So I think in that sense, it's sort of justifiable how she's acting. And, you know, she's offered to help house sit, dog sit, clean, paint, organize, whatever. So I think that's probably good that she's offering to help so she doesn't feel like a burden, right? And obviously, you know, I'm sure that this guy's wife loves her mom. So not only is she going through a tough time, but it's someone that his wife loves and that he should love as well. So this is an important person in both of their lives. Maybe not so much the OP's life, but definitely in his wife's life. So you should want to support someone who's important to you. Now, there is certain things that perhaps make this mother-in-law seem like more of an asshole. She did come with very short notice, and it seems like she's just thrust herself into this situation. So that potentially I can sympathize with the husband. But at the same time, it's not like it's the end of the world what she's doing. Is it perhaps a bit annoying? Maybe. But she's indulging the son. I don't know that that's necessarily that bad of a thing, especially since she's only going to be there for 2 or 3 weeks. Like, I get it. You don't want to interrupt your kid's routine, but for this special circumstance, I think it's probably okay. And that's quality time that their son is getting to spend with their grandmother. So I think so far that the mother-in-law is getting a lot out of this experience. And I think the son is getting a lot out of this experience. And I think the wife is getting a lot out of this experience, getting to see her mom and help her mom through a time of distress. Now, this is where I think OP turns into the asshole, right? I think it's okay to be mildly annoyed by this, but to pretty much ignore his mother-in-law after the son went to sleep or when wife was home, again, a mother-in-law, is someone who's important to your wife, so you shouldn't be outright rude to them. It's not that big of an ask to at least act like you're supportive. You don't even have to feel that way, but what the mother-in-law needs right now is not a cold son-in-law. What she needs is love because she's going through a tough time. And this especially, to say that it's of her own choice, you know exactly what's going on with their life, that's a bit presumptuous. So overall, I think the feelings of the OP are partly justified. The way that OP went about it definitely makes them the asshole. So I would say you're the asshole. So I think also it has this. They had everybody vote on this situation. You're the asshole, not the asshole, whatever. And here's what the results of that poll were. So it looks like 46% thought you're the asshole, which was the conclusion that I got to. Surprisingly, 40% think that he's not the asshole. I mean, I guess I can see where you're coming from on that if you have the most uncharitable interpretation of the mother-in-law. Everyone sucks here. I think that I could get behind an everyone sucks here more so than a not the asshole. I think out of everybody in this story, I think OP is most the asshole in this situation. I think you could make some arguments that the mother-in-law is an asshole, but I don't think you could. I can't see an argument where you say that OP is not an asshole. But let's also take a look at the top comment on this post, and let's see what the consensus, or the most upvoted at least, opinion on the situation was. Here's what the top comment says. You're the asshole. How hard is it to be nice to someone going through a hard time? Yes, it is inconvenient, but just try. However, the real issue is between you and your spouse. Just be kind to your mother-in-law for the sake of your spouse. It will make your wife's life easier. It's short term. In long marriages, people make sacrifices for each other. Every little act of kindness you do for your mother-in-law, you're really doing for your wife. In my opinion, too, it's like, yeah, your mother-in-law may suck, but your mother-in-law is someone that your wife really loves and cares about, and therefore you should also love and care about. So I think we need more love in the world, not less. So in this situation, I think OP is the asshole. The final scenario for today we're going to look at is, am I the asshole for telling my girlfriend she's too dumb to go to law school? Throwaway account. I, 28 male, am a lawyer. I am working for a nonprofit. My girlfriend, 28 female, is a caseworker. We connected over our interest in our work. Recently, she has told me she also wants to go to law school. TBH, I have very serious reservations for anyone going to law school. It's a huge time and financial commitment, and it is not some easy path to money or fame. But I became very concerned because she kept saying she wanted to do what I did. Honestly, I don't feel like I'm making the change or impact I should be. I am very strongly considering changing professions. For her, who is interested in the social justice aspect, I feel like she doesn't truly understand some of the limitations of being a lawyer in the social justice field. I tried to tell her about the above issues, but she said she knew what she wanted. She asked me to look at her application essay, and it was terrible. I was honestly shocked. While she is not a native English speaker and has a strong accent, she went to high school and graduated from a good college. We've never had an issue of communicating, but her written work, which I had never seen, was just objectively bad. If I had never spoken to her, I would have assumed from her writing she was learning English, not basically fluent. My initial reaction upon reading her essay was, if she writes like this in a personal essay, there is no way she's going to be able to handle a memo. Writing in law school is hard. It is an entirely different form and style, and a lot of students, even the most gifted, struggle. I really couldn't envision this working out, so I told her that. My basic point was, I think you have to prepare a lot more and think a lot more about this decision. I just don't think your expectations of law school match the reality, and you definitely need to improve your writing skills a lot more to be a competitive student. She immediately reacted angrily, telling me I was arrogant, that just because I had gone to law school didn't mean I knew everything, that her English was fine, and she couldn't believe I was telling her she was too dumb to go. I tried to tell her it wasn't about her intelligence, but about her expectations and preparation. But she basically told me to go to hell. I guess I could have been more supportive from the get-go and softened the approach, but I honestly think she would be making a huge mistake in even attempting to go to law school. The fact that her writing ability is subpar just seals it for me. So, am I the asshole? Okay, so here's what I think about this situation. If we're looking at this objectively, it seems to be that this OP's girlfriend does not have what it takes to go to law school. If we're going to trust the OP in their assessment of his girlfriend's writing. And I would be willing to trust that, considering that they have gone through law school and they know how competitive it is and what is needed to be able to go to law school and succeed. And also, it seems like OP's girlfriend may not realize what necessarily law school can do and what the profession of being a lawyer can do, because it seems like she's more interested in the social justice aspects of it, whereas like law is more focused on the crime and the implications, and there's a lot more institutions that are in place that you can't really make a change that easily. And don't get me wrong, I'm not saying that I support what our institutions are. I definitely think we can improve our institutions, but I think that some people may be more equipped to do that, and then some other people may have different capabilities. So I think that it seems that OP's girlfriend may not be the best fit for law school. Now, it seems like law school is something that OP's girlfriend is very passionate at, and maybe she would improve being in law school. Her skills, her outlook, maybe she would find that she really enjoyed it and she was good at it. That's also something to consider, and that, you shouldn't just trample on someone's dream. I think that's probably fair. But at the same time, if I was pursuing something and I really wanted to do something and someone else told me or knew from their personal experience that it would be very difficult and unlikely that I would be able to do it, I would appreciate that info so I could, perhaps take that into my consideration. So it seems like that was what OP had done with his statement. He said, I think you have to prepare a lot more and think a lot more about this decision. I don't think your expectations of law school match the reality. And you definitely need to improve your writing skills a lot more to be a competitive student. I don't think he was saying you can't do this. You are dumb. You can't do this. But hey, let's think about this more and maybe think more about this decision and what you want to do. I would appreciate that advice. And it seems like it's more advice than saying, oh, you can't do this. But I can also see from the perspective of the girlfriend where it seems like he's basically saying that, but that's only because she's so invested into this. So I don't think he's the asshole here. I think this is probably some advice that's very good intentioned. He has the best intentions in mind. And it seems like his girlfriend didn't really take it that way, but I'm sure she'll appreciate this later on down the road, perhaps. That would be how I would interpret it. But different people, different reactions. But to me, it's pretty clear that OP is not the asshole. Or maybe I could even say no assholes here. But I'd probably say not the asshole just because she went off on him and reacted very angrily. So I think I'll lean towards not the asshole. Let us see what the results of the poll were. Final verdict was not the asshole. 60% said not the asshole. 29% said you're the asshole. No assholes here got 8% and 1% each for you're the asshole and everybody sucks here. Okay, fair enough. Then let's take a look at the top comment for this post, see what the overall sentiment was on this scenario. Not the asshole. You were honest, which is good. You know it's not only hard, but a huge time and financial commitment. It would be worse, in my opinion, if you weren't honest and let her try to go through the process, which she certainly still can try, but you told her the truth. And I think that's ultimately my perspective too, is that he was offering very good advice. He didn't say, hey, you can't do this, but he was like, should really think about this and, maybe you need to improve your skills before you can do this. I don't think he said hey, you can't do this, but he was like, let's just think about this for a second. So I definitely agree with Reddit here. Thank you so much for watching this video. Let me know in the comments what you thought about these different scenarios. If you had differing opinions than mine, I'd love to hear them, and I'll let you know what I think about your opinions as well. Again, thanks so much for watching, and be sure to stay safe.